This is Today as It Happened. Good Thursday evening to you. I'm Maritza Giorgio here with your chronological look at the biggest events and stories of the day. From a trade court ruling that the White House must pay refunds to companies impacted by the president's tariffs, to the House Oversight Committee calling a list of prominent people to testify amid its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. But first, this morning, our international correspondent in Tel Aviv gave us a look at recent Iranian strikes in the region against the U.S. and Israel. Iran launched a new wave of attacks on Israel and American bases this morning. The strikes came after the U.S. Navy sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean, killing at least 87 sailors. A top Iranian cleric called for violence against Israelis and President Trump on state television Thursday. The message represents a rare call for violence by an Ayatollah, one of the highest ranks in Shiite Islam. Iranian state television aired the inflammatory message amid the ongoing military strikes between the two countries. Meanwhile, Israel says it carried out new airstrikes in Beirut, targeting Hezbollah command centers. The Israel Defense Forces posted video on social media claiming to show those attacks, saying they hit several Hezbollah command centers, including one used by the group's aerial unit. Israel described the attacks as intelligence-based strikes against what it calls the Hezbollah terrorist organization. Now, those strikes are part of this ongoing conflict between Israel and the Iranian-backed militant group. So let's get right into our coverage this morning with Scripps News senior international correspondent Jason Bellini, who is live in Tel Aviv, Israel, covering this conflict. He joins us now. So, Jason, good morning to you. We are seeing today further signs of this war expanding far beyond the Middle East. So what are you tracking right now?
Good morning, Maritza. This war just acquired a new front. Drones struck an international airport in a region of Azerbaijan that borders Iran. And another drone came down near a school there. 2 civilians were reportedly injured. We can see in verified videos posted online the smoke billowing from the terminal building, firefighters battling a blaze, and in another clip, a drone crashing and exploding nearby. Azerbaijan is calling it an Iranian attack. Iran denies it, but that denial lands with less weight each day as Iran has repeatedly denied targeting civilian infrastructure. Well, its drones and missiles keep hitting despite these denials. Azerbaijan's defense minister says these acts of aggression will not go unanswered, and it is preparing a response. They are not specifying what that response will be, but here's why that matters. Azerbaijan is one of Israel's closest partners in the region. It supplies more than 40% of Israel's crude oil imports, with deep security armed ties between the two countries. And if Iran is hitting Azerbaijan, it's not just expanding the war geographically, it's also poking at Israel's supply lines, Maritza.
Okay, so Jason, yesterday the Pentagon said it was successfully targeting Iranian missile launchers. We are hearing so much happening by the minute. So how close are the U.S. and Israel to actually eliminating that threat?
We don't know. The U.S. and Israel are releasing new video strikes on Iranian mobile missile launchers. And what you're watching is both a battlefield update and also a message. And here's what the footage tells us. The Israeli Air Force says it has destroyed or disabled around 300 launchers since this war began. Every time Iran rolls out, points it up and fires one, thermal satellites, they detect the blast, drones close in. The numbers, the videos, they indicate that it is working, this method of attacking these launchers. Now, Iran launched at least 20 missile barrages on day one. Now, it's down to about 6 barrages per day, so smaller attacks, longer pauses. That said, since last night here in Israel, we've gotten at least 4 incoming missile alerts. The big question now, Iran built what it calls missile cities, and it showed videos of this as highly produced. One might call it a propaganda video that shows tunnels that were bored more than a third of a mile into mountain rock, and shows an automated system moving missiles to launch position with no detectable signature from space. And so analysts believe Iran may also be deliberately rationing, like holding back, preserving leverage for when this war ends, or at least to create credibility for itself by showing that it can still send barrages of potent missiles to its adversaries and also now some of its allies that are home to the United States military. Maritza?
And Jason, I just want to ask you one more thing. I mean, we're hearing that Israel's moving tanks and they're focusing on one area, I believe, in northern Lebanon. Is there any way, like, how are you tracking where the most intense fighting is happening by the moment?
So we're watching the reports that are coming in, and most of those reports, frankly, they're coming from the Israel Defense Forces, but also there are being posted on social media reports on the ground from people who are seeing the fighting themselves or being forced to flee the fighting. One thing that's really interesting right now is that last night there was a call, this is what Jerusalem Post is reporting, a call between France's President Macron and with Benjamin Netanyahu. And Macron was telling Netanyahu, you got to cut this out. This is not good for Israeli forces to be inside of Lebanon because it could cause people inside Lebanon to rally towards Hezbollah, to support Hezbollah, because they're so unhappy that Israel is attacking cities like Beirut, even though Israel says it's attacking southern parts of Beirut where they're going after Hezbollah leadership, Hezbollah infrastructure. Israel, their position is this is the moment they're going to take out Hezbollah as a threat once and for all. Maritza?
All right, Scripps News senior international correspondent Jason Bellini live for us in Tel Aviv. Thank you so much, Jason, and please stay safe. And now, let's take a look at some of our other top headlines of the day. Ecuador and the United States have launched joint military operations against organized crime groups in the South American country. U.S. Southern Command announced the operations Tuesday, but neither government provided any details about the location or the scope. This move comes as Ecuador faces a sustained wave of violence linked to drug trafficking and illegal mining. Ecuador's president said his government is beginning joint actions with other countries as part of a new phase in the fight against organized crime. In our nation's capital, the House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Justice Department's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. 5 Republicans joined Democrats to support the subpoena proposed by GOP Representative Nancy Mace. This move shows continued frustration among conservatives with the department's review of documents related to the disgraced financier. Mace says the American people want answers on the Epstein files. The Justice Department concluded in July that no Epstein client list exists, and there was no reason to make additional files public. President Donald Trump's White House ballroom project up for a final approval vote today. The National Capital Planning Commission is stacked with Trump loyalists, and its executive director is formally recommending approval. The panel received 32,000 public comments, with almost all of them opposing this project. Critics cite concerns about the scope, the costs, the historical impact of the ballroom. Now, a much smaller number of supporters mention the need for a larger, modern space. Stopping this project, though, after commission approval, would require court action. Coming up on Today As It Happened.
The vast majority of goods, there is no legal obligation for anyone to pass along the savings. The importer of record is who paid the duties in the first place, and the importer of record is who gets the refund.
Welcome back to Today as It Happened. Let's check back in on our daily briefing of today's top stories. A federal judge on Wednesday ordered the Trump administration to issue more than $100 billion in potential tariff refunds. This comes weeks after that Supreme Court decision that ruled those sweeping tariffs were illegal. Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett is live with us in our D.C. newsroom. Avajoy, great to see you. Tell us more about what this federal judge said about tariff refunds and what it means.
Hey there, Maritza. Well, this is a ruling that came out of the U.S. Court for International Trade. And this judge is saying not only is this filtration company that sued the federal government for tariff refunds eligible for refunds, but they should also be getting interest too. The judge's name here is Richard Eaton. And he said this particular ruling will also possibly impact other companies that are looking to get those tariff refunds. We know so many companies across the country have been impacted by this. And he also went on to clarify that he will be the one who will be looking at any additional arguments in other cases with regards to tariffs. So there is no room for the possibility of another judge issuing something different with regards to this matter. So, of course, this is a major ruling that came out of the U.S. Court for International Trade that so many people have been watching and waiting for. It really was a swift decision from this court because, remember, the Supreme Court just issued their ruling on February 20th, Maritza.
And Avajoy, how are business and administration officials responding?
Well, businesses from the get-go, they were really celebrating the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling. With regards to this new ruling, they are excited once again. From the end of February, many businesses told me that they were ready to submit those receipts because they had been keeping the receipts in order to possibly get refunds. And now that the day came from the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling, they said they were ready to move forward. And we were actually able to get a statement from an organization called We Pay the Tariffs Coalition. This is an organization that came up after the tariffs were implemented here in the United States. And we're going to pull up on the screen the statement that was sent to Scripps News. The statement says the court acted swiftly and correctly. Now the ball is in the government's court and small businesses are concerned they will drag this out further. American small businesses have waited long enough. A full, fast, and automatic refund process is what these businesses are owed, and anything else is unacceptable. And we do know that companies like FedEx, for example, say that they will be issuing refunds if they actually are able to get refunds from the federal government. And these refunds could go to shippers and even consumers. But the process by which all of this will really play out right now, it's really uncertain. We believe, according to Customs and Border Protection, that at least $130 billion in refunds should be issued to consumers, shippers, small businesses, large businesses. Just a few moments ago, we were able to speak with a trade expert from Georgetown Law School. And here's what she had to say about how this could all play out with regards to consumers actually getting some of those refunds.
It would depend on what the contract was between the importer of record and the ultimate purchaser of the goods. But for the vast majority of goods, there is no legal obligation for anyone to pass along the savings. The importer of record is who paid the duties in the first place, and the importer of record is who gets the refund. Whether they ever pass that refund on to anyone else is actually up to them.
Now, after yesterday's decision from this federal court, the White House did not respond to a request for comment. But we do know that earlier this week, President Donald Trump spoke about this issue in the Oval Office. He said, quote, "We won on tariffs." We also know that Jamieson Greer, the U.S. trade representative who was inside the Oval Office with the president as well, he spoke about what future tariffs could possibly look like. And one of the things that they have been talking about is the possibility of implementing new tariffs that could potentially last for 150 days. These could be wide sweeping tariffs that can go up to as much as 15%. This is something that the U.S. Trade Rep spoke about earlier this week at the White House. But officials are saying this is something that could be really short-lived. You have to get permission from Congress in order to go beyond 150 days. And then you also have to get additional guidance if you want for the tariffs to be more than 15%. So there could be limitations for the administration with regards to how they move forward with future tariffs, the tariffs that they're touting that they will try to implement, Maritza.
All right, Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett live in D.C. for us. Thanks so much for your analysis, Avajoy. Straight ahead on Today as It Happened.
One of the most useful things about prediction markets is that they tell you the truth when a lot of people maybe don't want to tell you the truth. Like, can we believe, what the president is saying or what some other foreign leaders, are saying? How do we know? Well, in a prediction market, you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Thanks for staying with us on Today as It Happened. I'm Maritza Giorgio with your daily look at the day's biggest stories.
They used to call it war profiteering. These days, like everything else, there is an app for that. U.S. lawmakers sounding the alarm after millions of dollars in bets were placed on the timing of those airstrikes against Iran and also the death of the supreme leader. Scripps News national correspondent Katie Tubman is live in New York with the latest on this story. Katie, what's the deal here? It's like betting on the Super Bowl or an Oscar nominee.
It's sort of like that, Del. In this case, users on a prediction market site called Kalshi placed bets predicting that Iran's supreme leader would be out by March or April 1st. Now, those bets reached about $54 million. And when Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed on February 28th, they left many users feeling like winners. That was until the site Kalshi froze the trade for everyone, saying that it doesn't allow transactions directly tied to death. And basically, the company said the phrasing of Khamenei's out as supreme leader doesn't include him dying. Now, this is all happening, of course, Del, as we're seeing a rise in prediction markets. They allow people to bet on predictions for elections, the weather, and there's even a bet on Taylor Swift's wedding date. And I spoke with an expert on this growth, and he told me that prediction markets are more accurate because you're getting a bunch of information from a wide group of people across the world. Here's economics professor Alex Tabarrok at George Mason University.
One of the most useful things about prediction markets is that they tell you the truth when a lot of people maybe don't want to tell you the truth. Like, can we believe, what the president is saying or what some other foreign leaders, are saying? How do we know? Well, in a prediction market, you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Well, Del, some people's predictions may be more accurate than others, and that's where we're seeing major issues with this market right now. Around the time of the Supreme Leader's death, an intelligence firm found that 6 suspected insiders made $1.2 million betting on the U.S. strike on Iran. Now, most alarming, these bets were placed within a day of the strikes, some just hours before, and one account won over $500,000. Del?
Katie, it sounds like we're talking about insider trading, but in this case, we're talking about insider trading involving war.
Right. That's right now the biggest concern. The question is, what's to stop someone in the U.S. military, for example, on betting on a future airstrike that they may know is coming? I asked Tabarrok, the professor at George Mason University, about insider betting, and he said that prediction markets actually want insiders betting because they make the information that's out there more accurate. But lawmakers are sounding the alarm. They're basically saying if it looks like insider trading and walks like insider trading, then it might just be insider trading. And just today, Senators Jeff Merkley and Amy Klobuchar introduced a bill to block government officials, specifically at the highest levels, from engaging in prediction markets. Merkel, in a statement, said perfectly timed bets on prediction markets have the unmistakable stench of corruption. And he said that also when it comes to these bets, that senators are calling on Congress to pass the End Prediction Market Corruption Act to crack down on the bad bet for democracy. Del?
Scripps News senior national correspondent Katie Tubman for us live in New York. Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now to the growing cost of the U.S. military conflict with Iran. New estimates suggest the operation has already cost you, the American taxpayer, more than $1 billion, and that number could climb quickly if the fighting continues. Scripps News business and tech correspondent Mara Barrett is following the money for us. She joins us now live from Denver. And Mara, we're talking about $1 billion. Where's that money going to come from?
Well, Del, it's hard to estimate just exactly how much the strikes in Iran are costing the U.S. government, given we don't know the full scope of the operation or what weapons are being used exactly yet. But either way, the estimates, the price tag, it's racking up. We have heard some estimates from think tanks and budget officials. And so you can basically break it down into 3 buckets. First, the cost of deploying forces to the region, so moving ships, aircraft, troops to the Middle East ahead of the strikes. It's estimated that cost $630 million before the strikes even began. Now, that's according to a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute think tank and a former budget official with the Pentagon. There's also the cost of this expensive military hardware, right? 3 F-15E fighter jets were shot down over the weekend. That's according to CENTCOM. And each of those jets cost about $90 million. So 3 of those, that's another $300 million. Now, there's also the cost of weapons used in the strikes and going forward. And so reports have suggested that the military has been using Tomahawk missiles to carry out these strikes. Those are estimated to cost about $2 million each. There's also the higher end B-2 bombers, and those cost even more than operating than drones. It's estimated to be about $150,000 per flight hour to operate alone. And so all of those numbers just there leading up to the strike and these first few days is totaling just about $1 billion. Del.
Yeah, and then there is the human toll. 6 American service members losing their lives. Also, the fact that it's not over yet. Analysts say this could get more expensive as the conflict continues. How high could that price tag go?
Well, it's important to know it hasn't even been a full week yet, right? And The Atlantic is reporting that a preliminary Pentagon cost estimate of the war in Iran is at $1 billion a day, and that's according to a congressional official that they're citing. If you take a look at this ticker, this animation online that's based on that, it indicates that with those startup costs that I laid out, plus the day-to-day operation, we are already at more than $5 billion spent. So that's $5 billion with a B, paid by the American taxpayer. And so depending on how long this conflict lasts, you have to also factor in replacing weapons and aircraft, operating ships, while also maintaining troops in the region. And so it makes sense when we see this one estimate from the Penn Wharton budget model. They estimated that the conflict could ultimately cost between $40 billion and up to nearly $100 billion, depending on how long this goes on for, Del.
Scripps News business and tech correspondent Mara Barrett for us live in Denver. Mara, thank you very much.
This is Today as It Happened. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Today as It Happened, the Scripps News' end of the day snapshot of our biggest stories. So let's pick up where we left off.
The committee looking into the Justice Department's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell not slowing down. In fact, they're adding some big-name players to the interview list, including Darren Indite, one of the men in charge of Epstein's estate. Scripps News senior national correspondent Alex Miller live for us in New York with the latest on this story. And Alex, spring is starting to shape up as a pretty busy time for the committee. What can you tell us?
The committee looking into the Department of Justice's investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is not slowing down, adding some pretty big names in Epstein and Maxwell's circles to the list, making for a very busy spring. The top Democrat on the committee, Congressman Robert Garcia, says the Department of Justice will release more Epstein files. It is believed that roughly 3 million have yet to be published and tens of thousands have been removed without explanation. The announcement comes just one day after a bipartisan group on the committee voted to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. Bondi's name is being added to a lengthy list this spring. 7 others in Epstein's circle have just been asked to testify, including Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, 2 of Epstein's employees, as well as close confidants, and Ghislaine Maxwell's former boyfriend. Those interviews will likely come after the March depositions of longtime Epstein attorney Darren Indyke and accountant Richard Kahn. They'll be questioned just weeks after agreeing to settle a $35 million lawsuit with survivors that accused them of facilitating Epstein's trafficking network. A judge still must approve the deal. Their attorneys say neither man has made any admission or concession of misconduct. Epstein's estate has already paid out some $170 million to survivors. Alex Miller, Scripps News Group, New York.
Breaking news coming out of the White House. A short while ago, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem fired. She will be on the job until March 31st, but the White House already announcing her replacement. That ouster coming after 2 days of contentious hearings on Capitol Hill, both sides of the aisle lashing out at Noem, questioning her leadership, and of course, asking about those fatal shootings of 2 American citizens in Minnesota.
And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position. If you don't, you should be removed by this president. And if not, Congress should impeach you.
A Republican member of the Senate also saying that she should be fired. Scripps News senior White House correspondent Haley Bull on the North Lawn. And Haley, the Homeland Security Secretary has a new title, but still questions remain. What are you hearing from your sources at this hour?
Yeah, Del, Secretary Kristi Noem out at the Department of Homeland Security with the president's announcement of new leadership he is looking to tap, but she is being moved to a new position, what the president is calling the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. On Truth Social, he described it as a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. Now, the details on what the specifics of that role entails are slim at this point, but he said he is expecting to announce this weekend during a summit in Florida that is expected to include other leaders from the Western Hemisphere. Secretary Noem in remarks today suggested she expects to appear there as well. This is the first major shakeup in President Trump's cabinet in his second term. It is extremely notable as Noem has faced increasing criticism and pressure, not just from Democrats, but from some Republican lawmakers, as well as scrutiny over the agency's policies and budgets has come into question, as you referenced just there, including in that hearing with senators just yesterday. Now, this afternoon, Del, we are now hearing from the president's new choice for Homeland Security leadership, Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, and he addressed reporters just a short time ago. Listen.
I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. You know, the Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction. And I think there's a lot of work that we need to do, and I'm excited about it.
Matt Mullen also said he hadn't spoken to Noem yet, but also told reporters that he felt she was tasked with a difficult job and said that she felt she performed the best she could under those circumstances. When he was pressed on whether there are lessons learned, he indicated that there are always lessons learned, comparing it to running businesses to build off success and things that didn't go as planned, he said. Of course, there is a confirmation process ahead. We are hearing coming from some Democratic lawmakers in particular. While John Fetterman indicated he would be able to support Mullen in this capacity, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader in particular, indicated that he is still looking for other major changes to the agency, which comes as funding for the Department of Homeland Security, of course, has been halted, involved in that partial government shutdown, Dell.
Haley, two things emerged during that contentious hearing on Capitol Hill, one being that Kristi Noem refused to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy. She referred to him as an assassin in a text, and also Renee Good referring to her as a domestic terrorist, saying that that was being investigated, but no formal apology. But is it your understanding that it was the advertising in the airports across the country that seemed to draw the president's ire, the millions of dollars spent on an ad campaign that prominently featured Kristi Noem?
Well, Del, that was certainly a very notable moment in that hearing, and we have seen the pressure building, of course, when it comes to Minnesota in particular, the killing of 2 American citizens there. She faced growing scrutiny over her leadership in the agency as we saw the administration seek to push its policies, but also tap the border czar Tom Homan to take over leadership on the ground in Minnesota. Homan publicly focusing on a more targeted approach in his comments compared to the more sweeping enforcement efforts that we're seeing under Noem's leadership. Now, that was when we really saw the skepticism, the questions, the rumors start to pick up in reporting over Noem's leadership of the department. But publicly, the administration and the president sought to give comments showing their confidence in her. As recently as the end of February, the president, in remarks to Angel families, a remembrance ceremony for them, families of people who were killed by undocumented migrants, the president said, quote, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, our people have been incredible, the job they've done. But we saw what was a notable point in that hearing yesterday with the increased criticism from Republican lawmakers in particular over the agency's policies, its budget, use of funds, and Noem's leadership in particular, leading to the president's Truth Social announcement today of that swift change in leadership, Dell.
Scripps News Senior White House correspondent Haley Beaufort. Haley, as always, we thank you very much.
Coming up on Today as It Happened.
A community coming together to remember Sergeant Noah Tegens, one of the 4 service members killed in an attack Sunday night. And friends and community members are reflecting on his impact to our neighbors.
And later,
we're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening.
watching Today as It Happened, a Scripps News' rundown of the biggest events and stories of the day. So let's dive right back in.
I'm Greta Gady at Martial Arts International here in Bellevue. It's a place Sergeant Noah Tegens spent a lot of time when he wasn't serving his country. Tegens was a Bellevue native that was among one of the 4 service members killed in a drone strike Sunday. Now his community is coming together to remember the fallen soldier.
You know, when you think about Mr. Noah, he's just that nice guy that's very confident.
That's the way Sergeant First Class Noah Tegens' community is remembering him, as well as a devoted father and husband, an instructor and a soldier, and a respected black belt in Taekwondo and Philippine combatives. Julius Melagrito is the owner of Martial Arts International, the studio where Tegens taught when he wasn't serving his country. It's also where his young son, Dylan, trains. Melagrito says Tegens was a kind man and a great leader who did everything for his family and his community.
That's the kind of guy that you'll remember, and you will never just easily forget because of the impact he makes not only to the community that he belongs with, but to every person he comes in contact with. I think that's a great character to have.
It's a loss that's impacting many in this military community. Bellevue Mayor Rusty Hikes says Sergeant Tegens made the ultimate sacrifice, and he's proud to see his community come together to show their support for his family.
When you hear it's one of your own, it just brings it home. You can feel it a little bit more, and you know, we're here to support. We're here to support the family.
Hike says the city is looking into naming a street after Sergeant Tegens to honor his service and sacrifice. Martial Arts International has set up a college fund for Tegens' son through GoFundMe. Neighbors interested in donating can find the link on our website.
That's all every parent wants, is to be able to provide for their kids, whether while they're alive, and now hopefully with the help of everyone in our community and our nation, even after life.
According to Martial Arts International, all the proceeds will go directly to Tegens' son.
I feel like this is the best way to honor his legacy as we continue his legacy on the mat.
There will be a candlelight ceremony for Sergeant Tegens at 7:30 Thursday night here at Martial Arts International to honor him. Tegens would have turned 43 Thursday. I'm Greta Gady, your Bellevue neighborhood reporter.
I want to take you on the scene right now to the White House. The president talking about the war with Iran just moments ago. The event there, he is surrounded by the MLS champion Inter Miami soccer team. Take a listen.
But we have, most importantly, wonderful people that love our country. And before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone, launches are gone, about 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough, and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late, and we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, you know, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt. It mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran, and we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it, and so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yesterday, my administration announced decisive action to help keep down the oil prices, including offering political risk insurance for tankers transiting into the Gulf, as you know, pretty dangerous territory. Further action to reduce pressure on oil is imminent, and the oil seems to have pretty much stabilized. We had it very low, but I had to take this little detour, if it's okay with everybody. Scott, it's okay with you? Scott's the one who has to put up with it. He said, you have to do this now? I said, I have to do it, Scott, right? But it's been very strong, and everybody, including Scott, everybody feels we had really no choice. They were going to hit us if we didn't hit them, because they're crazy. And in the long term, the actions we're taking will dramatically increase the stability of the region and oil prices and stock markets and everything else. You know, we set the all-time record in history with the Dow going to 50,000.
Coming up on Today as It Happened.
In reality, most analysts believe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, you can stay with me, that after the siren, just to give you an idea of what's going to happen here, you'll hear the sirens, and typically within a few minutes, then we'll hear the interceptors hitting a missile in the sky.
Scripps News is streaming for free on all your favorite streaming services. Once you get the app, get free access to breaking news, live events, and the award-winning journalism you expect from Scripps News. Start streaming Scripps News today.
Welcome back to Today As It Happened. I'm Maritza Giorgio. Let's jump right back into our rundown of our top stories of the day.
Iran launching a new wave of attacks against Israel, American bases, and countries around the region, calling for, quote, Trump's blood, and vowing the U.S. will, quote, bitterly regret sinking one of its warships. Israel has now hammered Iran for 6 straight days. We begin our coverage with Scripps News senior international correspondent Jason Bellini, who's on the ground for us live in Tel Aviv. And Jason, Iran continues to attack a growing list of neighboring countries. What's the latest?
That's right, Dylan. First, let me tell you, I'm wearing a vest right now, vest and helmet, for the obvious reason. We just heard not just an air raid alert, but I saw in the sky above Tel Aviv, on this skyline right here, what appeared to be an interception of a missile. That's typically what they're intercepting right now from Iran. And what does it look like? It looks like fireworks from this perspective where I am right here. But Azerbaijan, the neighbor to the south of Iran, well, they saw fireworks of their own of a different kind today. There was a strike in a passenger terminal, and then a second drone fell near a school. Azerbaijan's president called it an act of terror. And here's why that matters. Azerbaijan is one of Israel's closest partners in the region, supplying more than 40% of Israel's crude oil imports. And the president there has now mobilized his military and is vowing retaliation, demanding that Iran apologize and face criminal accountability. Iran's explanation is blaming Israel, and that pattern is repeating. An Iranian missile struck a state-run oil refinery in Bahrain, a country that is home to the U.S.'s Fifth Fleet, those ships out at sea at war right now. The message Iran is sending, deliberate or not, is that no neighbor is off limits. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed tonight. 20 million barrels of oil a day not moving. Down.
In the capital of Israel's northern neighbor, in Lebanon, there are actually reports of people fleeing in panic tonight. What's happening there?
That's right, Del. What's happening is this. Israel issued a mass evacuation order today for all of Beirut's southern suburbs, an area that's home to hundreds of thousands of people. The streets, they really erupted in chaos. There's gridlock, families loading cars with mattresses and whatever they could carry. The fear is that Israel is about to launch a large-scale bombing campaign in the heart of the Lebanese capital. This is Hezbollah territory in the south, Iran's proxy force, and the one that fired rockets into northern Israel earlier this week, triggering this latest round. And at least 100 people have been killed in Lebanon since Monday. Tonight, UN peacekeepers are reporting ground combat in southern Lebanon. More Israeli troops are crossing the border. Lebanon didn't start this war, but it is fast becoming one of its bloodiest fronts down.
Images of Gaza still fresh in everyone's mind in the region where you are. Jason, who's in charge now, and who's likely to take over as Iran's next leader?
It's a great question. Technically, an interim council of 4 officials is running Iran right now. In reality, most analysts believe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, you can stay with me, after the siren, just to give you an idea what's going to happen here, you'll hear the sirens, and typically within a few minutes, then we'll hear the interceptors hitting a missile in the sky. That's what the way it's been going, and you know, I've been getting a bit used to this by now. Not too used to. We're taking it very seriously, of course. But continuing on what I was saying, if you can still hear me, in terms of who's going to be in control, well, today we heard that the front runner, Mojtaba Khomeini, who's the son of the Ayatollah, well, that idea not going well with President Trump. And all right, we're going to move, guys. We're going to move. Okay, I have to step forward. Why don't you keep rolling, and I'll comment on what we're seeing right now. Maybe you're able to see behind me what's going on. Okay, I'm all right here.
No, Jason.
We see the interceptors going to the sky over the. Oh, we see the interceptors right now. We're okay right here. I'll go undercover if needs be. Right now, we're seeing the interceptors. They're far away, over on the skyline, and going after what appears to be a missile. I didn't see an explosion in the sky, but that gives you a sense of just how quick things happen. You heard the siren there, and then interceptors went up within just seconds, Del. That's how it works. And you can imagine, this is a major city that has people who are at home. They've been mostly at home, seeking shelter every few hours many times. And it's dramatic seeing that happening, seeing it and hearing it over your city. It doesn't become less dramatic each time, Del.
Jason, you may be getting used to it. None of us here in Washington are, so we would rather you take shelter and be safe. Our international correspondent Jason Bellini live for us in Tel Aviv. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you for spending some of your evening with Today As It Happened. I'm Maritza Giorgio. Have an excellent Thursday night.